So here's where we sat a couple months ago with the $1,200 F-150. This is the truck prior to doing any work on it. If you'd like to kind of see my ambitions and plans and stuff I was going to sort out, you can check out my last video. This is a video of me doing all those little things to the truck and making it look pretty again. It was a fun project. It was pretty straightforward, and as you'll see at the end, it ended up being quite a profitable little truck too. And it was fun to drive around for the couple months I had it. So in addition to pulling off all the chrome badging and stuff, I pulled off the window tint and the louvers or window covers, whatever you want to call them, that were sitting on those back windows. I then dove into the two back doors on the truck. Neither one was opening either with the interior or exterior handle, so I figured I'd rip off the door panels, or the door panel, passenger side didn't have one, and get all that sorted out. So it's not the most elegant solution. What I ended up doing is pulling the top cable all the way out and zip tying it where it was, so that way the top would remain unlatched at all times. And then what I did with the cable to the bottom is I just pulled it up a little bit more and tightened it down. I think it had just kind of stretched over time. The result was exactly what I was looking for. It opens up with the outside latch, opens up with the inside latch. The seal's just fine. It's not letting water or wind in, doesn't make any noise, doesn't rattle. So for a truck this cheap, I'm not trying to invest a whole bunch of money into it, and this solution worked perfectly. So that's all I needed from it. The decals wound up being a huge hassle to get off. The back ones came off easy enough. I just used a plastic razor blade and a heat gun, heated all the stickers up, and then they pretty much peeled off pretty easily, so that wasn't too hard. The front ones, assuming that they're a lot older, so they were really stuck on there. I wound up getting a little rubber disc from my boss, and I just stuck it on a drill. And it's specifically made to remove decals like that, and it just kind of cuts through the stickers and the adhesive without getting into the clear coat or leaving scratches or scuffs. So a couple passes with that, and I was able to get the stickers right off. I don't know why, but the headliner was really bothering me on this one. It was sagging up front. Had a couple areas in the middle where it was sagging too, and I don't even know how, but it had all these little tears and scratches in the material too. So I ended up talking to one of my friends who does upholstery work, and I traded one of my old toolboxes. So I saved some good money, and he did awesome work on it too, so it looked like it was brand new. I went to a pick and pull yard and pretty much found all the parts that I needed. I got a cleaner tail light for the passenger side. I got the mirror glass for the driver's side. Found a matching pair of chrome covers for the mirrors, which looked a little bit better than the chipped ones that I had. And most importantly, I found the door panel for the rear passenger side, so that finished up the doors for me too. So next, I just ripped off the parts that were already on the Ford that I had replaced, put these new parts on, and it looked a lot better. It was an inexpensive way to knock out a bunch of little things at once, so that made it a little bit easier. The front bumper needed a lot of love, and I was trying to do it on a budget. I think I did a pretty good job for the way it turned out. A lot of the plastic was missing clips and screws, so I got all that stuff buttoned back up. There was a pretty sizable dent on there as well, so I just used a hammer and a mallet and tried to smoothen that area up. It wasn't perfect, admittedly, but it looked a lot better than having a big dent sitting right there on the chrome bumper. For the lower lip, the paint was really old, it was flaking, it was chipped, it had all sorts of cracks and whatnot, so I just fixed that by sanding it down and getting the surface all prepped for paint. I masked off the rest of the bumper where the chrome was, using pretty much whatever I could find, and painted it with this Rust-Oleum stuff that I got from Home Depot. Next up, I did my best to fix up the dash, especially this middle panel. It had a lot of areas where the paint had either chipped or scratched away, and there was a big crack running along the middle, and it made it to where every time you drive it would rattle. So I got this color match paint for it, I sanded it down, and then for the crack, I reinforced it using nickels because they're cheaper than quarters, I guess. I used some JB weld on the back and then used plastic weld on the middle to try and blend it together and make the surface look like it hadn't been cracked. It didn't turn out perfect. The paint was actually really nice on it. It matched the rest of the interior perfectly. You can see a little bit where the crack used to be, and I feel like I probably should have used like a lighter putty or something like that. But overall, you know, for a cheap fix, it worked pretty well. Then came probably the most tedious part of this whole project, but probably the part that made the biggest visual difference. I knew I wanted to put some sort of bed liner in it because the bed looked pretty rough before. So I went through and sanded the bed down. I had a power sander, but it really only worked on all the raised flat areas, so I mostly just did it by hand. So with a whole bunch of sheets of 100 grit sandpaper, I got every little nook and cranny sanded down and ready to paint. And once all that was set up, I got some Herculiner bed liner from Amazon. It ended up running about $75, so I mixed it up with my trusty drill and went through with a brush to get all the little crevices and stuff that I wouldn't be able to get with a roller. It came with a couple rollers in the box too. They were made out of foam and they actually worked pretty darn well. So I rolled on 2 coats and the can wound up being just enough to do the whole bed. And the results were actually really good. The liner material was really durable. It looked a whole lot better than it did before. And you know, it's a truck at the end of the day, so this adds a little bit more function, you know. You're not worried about scratching up your truck bed as you're throwing equipment or tools or whatever into the back. So I think this made a really good improvement. And you know, at $75 and a couple hours of work, it's hard to beat that. I was really happy with the result. So with all the little stuff hammered out, it was time to get to work on the paint. I wasn't sure how much buffing was going to do, but I figured, you know, looks pretty dull. It has a bunch of little scratches in the paint. Might as well give it a shot. So I bought a bunch of buffing pads and some compound. I used foam pads. Oh, here's a look at that bed. Look at that. Oh, yes. And I was honestly really happy with the results. It didn't get as many of the scratches out as I was hoping, but it brought out way more shine than I was anticipating, and it made the headlights look almost brand new. It made a real big difference on this truck. So here's a little before and after to kind of show what the compound actually did. I'm using the tailgate as an example here because it had a lot of scratches and whatnot on it. So going through it with compound and polish, it wound up bringing out a lot of shine. You can still see a lot of the bigger defects stayed. It brought out some of the scratches, which is nice. For the large part, you know, the paint condition-wise looks about the same, but for the amount of shine it brought out, I was absolutely stoked with the results. And here she is, all buttoned up and ready to sell. You know, my goal with this project was to keep it cheap and keep it simple. In total, I invested $1,465 into it, which, considering, you know, I spent $1,200 on the truck to begin with, I didn't spend a lot of money, and yet still I feel like I was able to make a really big difference. I learned a lot going through this process too, and on top of that, for 2 months I got to drive this truck around, which was an absolute blast. I ended up posting the truck for $4,100, which is, yes, I know, high. I sold it the very next day for $3,700, which I was absolutely thrilled with, which it put my profit at $2,235 for the truck. And the best part is it went to a guy right down the street from where I work, so I get to drive past the truck almost every day. He's a really enthusiastic guy. I think he's going to take great care of the truck. So that's all I've got for this video. If you enjoyed the video, please drop a like down below. Feel free to subscribe or comment or shoot me a message. I've got another project I'm working on right now. You know, these past 2 videos I've been doing more cosmetic and basic things, and I'm trying to make my projects gradually more ambitious as I learn more. So I've got a new video coming up pretty soon, hopefully finishing up this project pretty soon as well. So thanks for watching. Please subscribe if you want to see more of my videos, and thanks for watching.